discrimination and prejudices are two different things. I'm pretty sure we talked about this earlier, but just to run through it again, discrimination is an action. The actively telling someone they can't have something because of their color, or making them sit a certain way or anywhere. It's an action. But prejudices, that's a feeling you have. It's a feeling you might not even realize you have until it's laid out in front of you somehow. That study that would Democrats and Republicans with the same plan, but people felt different ways about it, even though it was the same issue, that's their prejudices showing through. They don't know why. They don't even realize it, but it's what's happening. And it's the prejudices that's the problem. It's the prejudices that's always been a huge issue with this nation. They always be like, oh, well, now black and white people are equal. No, they're not, because the prejudices don't allow black people to ever come up.
First off, one way you can figure out if you have prejudice is if this topic is pissing you off. I'm sorry, but that's just an indication. And secondly, the reason why we're even talking about this, not to just say America's racist, we're trying to explain this. So if you're sitting there and you say you're not racist, but somehow you can relate to this in the opposite experience, then we're just saying, hey, look, this is what you're doing. If you're not racist, do you mind just being more aware of your own actions?
I guess that's true. It's always the little things that the prejudices show. Yes. In any way. Like, if you think it's okay to have a black friend, but it's not okay for your daughter to date a black man, that's prejudices. And you should probably take care of that. It's either just admit to yourself that you're racist and stop trying to, put on this coat of armor that you're not, or change your way of reasoning to something that makes sense. Just be a little more consistent, Be
honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fix the problem until you identify the problem.
Exactly. You have to admit you have the problem first. So that's just what it is, I
want to give one more example. How you know if you're prejudiced? If you don't think about locking your doors when white people cross the street, but if you see a black person waiting at the stoplight and you go, click.
Not just clicking, because that's still an action. If you tense up a little bit, if you watch them a little closer, that's all prejudices.
I had that experience today. I was walking to the store and it was a red light and traffic was a bit backed up, and there was this old lady and I was crossing the street behind her car. And she sped up. Traffic wasn't going anywhere. She had nowhere to go, but she wanted to be as far up in front of me as possible. You weren't moving 5 seconds ago, and you didn't have a reason to move at this point. I felt some type of way.
It's okay.
All right, let's get back to our topic. So, another thing that really part of the foundation of black masculinity is this homophobia. I think that's the biggest crime against black masculinity, is being gay or showing any sign of
femininity.
Yeah,
it's real bad because, when you could read in textbooks that black people are the most homophobic of any culture, then stuff is wrong, because most black people aren't even going to talk about, their feelings and stuff like that. But the fact that they are means that there's enough of them that they feel some type of way about it. So the fact that I can sit in school and read studies about how homophobic black people are and why they're homophobic, and there's multiple studies done about this, by the way, which I thought is interesting. You pretty much can't have a discussion about masculinity unless you have a discussion about homophobia, some argue, because they say that our current forms of masculinity breeds homophobia. It's the hegemonic masculinity, the hierarchy that we create, because if homosexuals are literally the negatives of what being the manliest man are about, if they are the negatives of that, then they have the lowest amount of social success. They just don't fall into the category, so they get treated with the lowest amount. They get treated as outsiders. So within the black community as well, they just, probably even more so than normal culture, they just get treated horribly.
They do. It can be a danger to hit on a black man if you're a gay black man. You know how many times I hear from family members or friends that are like, if a gay guy tried to hit on me, I will punch him. Like, why you gotta get violent so suddenly? And I hear that so many times. And it's like, it's not enough to just say, no, sorry, I'm not interested. It's like, I gotta go above and beyond and prove that I'm a man by inflicting violence on you.
Yes.
The ultimate way of rejecting.
There's another study out, another theory going around. It's called masculinity overcompensation theory. And pretty much it states that when someone's masculinity is questioned, they will overcompensate in the opposite direction to compensate for the lack of masculinity that they've been given off. So if you aren't doing anything, you're walking down the street and someone hits on you and be like, oh, I thought you were gay just by the way you were walking, then that person will immediately change the way they walk.
Because gay people don't just go, oh, I think he's gay.
No, I'm just saying, this is hypothetically. You know, if someone says something about you walking like a woman, then you're going to, or in a way that is less masculine, then you're going to overcompensate by exaggerating and having a more manly walk. Sure. Same way in the way you talk, act, or whatever.
So, in other words, a gay guy hitting on you is equivalent to someone questioning your sexuality.
Yes, it's questioning your manhood.
Yes.
So, to prove that you're a man, you have to do something that a man will do and can do to the extreme. That's why they get violent, because they're overcompensating for the fact that someone thought they were less man. You know, so they have to prove that how much of a man they are.
I think it's interesting because I've gone around and I've questioned black people about this, and I was like, what do you think of gay people? And they flip out like, oh, this gross, and blah, blah, blah. You know, like, okay, can they get married? He's like, oh, I don't care about that. But if my son were gay, after hear that, I'll beat them out of it. And that's really hard to them. But yeah, so black homophobia is a real problem among the black community. I have gay friends, and I actually ended up losing a friend around the time gay marriage became legal. I posted a post on Facebook, and then one of my friends commented on it and like, this is disgusting and they should be ashamed. And I get you don't like gay people, but this is kind of really disrespectful, especially you doing it on my page, and I have gay friends, and like, I don't appreciate you doing this. And it just kind of blew up into this whole argument. It's a problem.
Yeah, homophobia in the gay community. It's been a problem for a while. I don't necessarily see any ways of it getting fixed. Mostly because our forms of masculinity doesn't allow for it. You know, in Europe, they're starting to observe things in younger kids that they're starting to call a new form of masculinity. And they call it an inclusive form of masculinity. And the reason why, you know, it's relevant to this conversation is because in this form of masculinity, they don't care about your sexual orientation. No. Like, if you are a friend, if you are their best friends or a good friend, then you get hugged. You may even get kissed, like it's okay, because that's what they do. And it's not seen as sexual. And they have plenty of gay friends, and they don't mind doing the same thing with their gay friends. They'll hug each other, they'll kiss each other, do all that stuff, even if they're straight. Because their form of masculinity doesn't have them feel threatened about being seen as feminine. Like, it's not even on their radar. So, if you want to see more of an acceptance of homosexuals within the community, then you're going to need a different form of masculinity. You know, one that where men don't have to feel threatened. You know, if their masculinity gets questioned, they have to be comfortable with it. More so in a society where your masculinity wouldn't even get questioned in the first place. That's ideally.
Yeah, this whole legalizing gay marriage is going to have a positive impact on the younger generation. I think the difference between our generation and our parents' generation is our generation is less willing to get violent right away, but we still overreact.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to be said about, you know, in between generations and how they deal with things, but, you know, we got to live with what we got. We can't change the past. All we can do is hope for the better in the future. So us talking to people in our generation might change their mind, at least in a way where they could teach younger people to be the same, and then younger people won't even have to teach their younger people because it'll already be a thing.
Yeah. So another thing when it comes to black people and homophobia, it is so widely accepted in our culture. Looking at the latest new TV shows for black people, Real Husband of Hollywood, and they're homophobic. There was this one episode when they went to this, what do they call it, the exotic museum.
What?
It was the nudity exotic museum, and like they just got to the entry, and it was a picture.
No. It was an exhibit. That's what it was. It was an art show that featured nude paintings of
erotica.
Erotic. Yes,
that's what I'm trying to. But yeah, just out the outdoor, and there's a picture of a guy's butt and the two...
Half a butt cheek.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Well, I should say a singular butt cheek attached to the leg. So, like, if the edge of the paper was as cracked, that's what you saw.
So, yeah, they just saw down there, just flipped out, and like, no, I ain't going in there. And the wife was like, come on, but they were so against it, and then they went in there, and then they were not content. And, of course, from the audience perspective, that's funny, and we accept that. But
really, when you think about it, you're like, they should be comfortable enough with their sexuality that they wouldn't care about seeing another part of a guy's body, even if it's in an art show. Because it wasn't necessarily erotic. It was just nude.
Yeah.
So...
And
they were artsy nude, not erotic nude.
They didn't show,
but they also didn't want
detail.
to be. Yeah, they also didn't want people to see them go into to the exhibit like that. They were that worried about their masculinity. Not only that, the show also. I mean, it's a funny show, and I admit, I indulge. But one of the things that they do, they call each other Mitches all the time.
Yeah.
And a Mitch is a man who acts like a bitch. So you're a Mitch. Just for short.
So yeah.
Yeah. And
if you're a feminine, you're somehow less of a man.
Yeah, so you're a Mitch. And of course, there's call each other Mitches for acting like Mitches, but it's just what it is.
Like some of the things they talk about that would make you a Mitch is whining too much, or what else was that?
Crying, getting hurt, getting beat up, like all that stuff.
Expressing emotion, pretty much. When it comes down to it, but
weakness
anger.
Or emotion.
Well, any other emotion that's not anger is weakness. So that's another thing. Like you have to be anger or aggressive. Those are the two acceptable emotions to show.
No, stoic. You can be stoic. You can be stoic.
What does that mean?
No emotionless.
Oh yeah, emotionless or negative emotions that are aggressive. Another thing I want to point out is just double standard, where if you watch anything that stars white people, like Modern Family, two gay couple, and everyone's okay with that. In fact, you can be labeled a negative person in society if you're white and homophobic. But when it comes to black people, it's okay, alright, like this Kevin Hart show, Real Husband in Hollywood. That is very new, and they still freak out when it comes to homosexual, and we're okay with that, and we still keep sending that message that black males need to be offended and upset and scared for their masculinity when it comes to homosexual, but white people have to embrace and accept homosexual, and that is this double standard.
Yeah, but technically, white people are always having things thrust upon them, to be fair. I mean, I'm not saying black people are the most, free-willed, but I'm telling you right now, like, the history of white people in our culture shows that they've been struggling with this issue for such a long time, and that they also haven't been open to the idea until fairly recently.
Yeah.
Now, black culture is newer than American culture, and so I feel like if you talk about it in stages like that, black people as a culture are more advanced than white people were when they had to deal with this, but I don't necessarily expect them in the evolution of society to be exactly where white people are right now, because their culture's older.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like that's more of an excuse. Because
I definitely think it's an excuse.
We push it on white people, and we say, look, you need to do this.
Well, we pushed black people on white people. Or, I'm sorry, we pushed the black people on white people. We didn't push homosexuals on white people. Homosexuals pushed themselves on white people. Homosexuals did not push themselves on black people. Why? And this is an argument
because
I just
they're
thought
not the one in power.
No, because they're afraid. That too, actually, I'll give you both. They are afraid of black people still, somewhere in their way. They're afraid of black people, and because black people aren't the ones in power, so they go after the white people, the people that are in power, so that they can get the rights that they need. Because it doesn't matter if black people accept it. Black people accept slang, but it doesn't become words. It's still seen as uneducated drivel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, there's two arguments right there. Black people are powerless, and they're still scary to white people.
True. And it makes me wonder, what about the homosexual black people?
Homosexual black people are some of the most disenfranchised people ever. They always talked about you have the most going against you if you're a black female, because black people already have so much going against them, and then women have so much going against them. So being a black woman means you have all this stuff going against you. But if you're gay,
yeah,
if you're a
you
black
get power.
male, you're not
Right.
a part of black male culture. You're outside of it.
You are.
You can, all you can do is play like little games where you can hopefully get accepted sometimes and hide who you are. If you're